Welcome to Hidden Squidz Gaming. Some ways you can do the second level Darkest Dungeon is a high marking strategy, but we'll talk about handling the main rooms after we go over the general fights you'll go throughout the regular dungeon. The pathing I have is going to have a total of 9 fights, that's including the boss rooms, so really you're going to have 6 fights outside of the boss room. In the regular fights you're going to have these cultists and you're going to have these priests. And you can watch how I handled them. I recommend handling the cultists first, even though I hit the priest there. Brought a lot of high damage abilities along to get through the priest because they do add stress damage and they can do a decent amount of physical damage with some criticals and bleed. But the cultists can heal and protect, and that's why I focus them first. I'm going to show just a couple of fights. I'm not going to go in depth about every fight, but I want to give you just enough material and ammunition for when you get into these fights you know how to generally handle them. The priest can do a lot of damage with especially the finger ability with the 21 critical you'll see later, and I start taking a lot of bleed damage. I do believe necessary components to do the second level well is a man-at-arms and a vestal. You'll need some healers, some stress reducers, and someone who can guard another individual. The biggest gimmick of the second dungeon is the trinkets, as you'll see on 3 of my characters, the Hellion, the man-at-arms, and the Hound Master, but the Vessel does not, and what these trinkets do is reduce an ability from one of the mini-bosses of adding huge amounts of stress damage, which will get you to an affliction status. Currently I'm going to be using my campfires more as offensive abilities than I will be as recovery, so you're going to see me every 4 fights from now on using them to maximize their potential. I have a very select amount of skills, and when you're in the Darkest Dungeon you don't need to worry about nighttime ambushes, so you can use all your points on just boosting your individuals and not worrying about preventing a nighttime ambush, which is what I usually do. Now I'm going to go into a still shot real quick, and then you're going to see my arrows. As you see, I went left, down, well, like left, then down. You're just going to retrace the trail and then go to the right here. This is the first fight to the bottom left. There's 2 polyps in the back, so I am going to use Hound's Harry and also Dogbone to do just a little bit more damage and also some bleed. The polyps go first, in my opinion. There's a couple of times I'll attack the Templar before I do the polyps, but for the most part they're going to be the ones I focus because they can do some abilities that really hurt. So when you get to the bottom left room, I recommend just leaving the mini boss alive and take care of the polyps. For the Impaler, I shouldn't have focused there. That should have been once again an Iron Swan. And the ability Revelation is the one where if you don't have a trinket on, it can do a lot of stress damage. So I'm fortunate that it didn't target my Vestal on that one. And this is actually an error on my end. I was being a little gutsy because I decided to use the man-at-arms for not protecting, but instead for riposte, as you saw right there. That's gutsy. It worked out in my favor in the end because now I'm getting all these riposte in. But there's nothing stopping that Revelation from coming onto my Vestal the next turn. And if my Vestal was to get hit with one of those abilities, it would be massive. Now that both polyps are dead, now we can honestly focus fire on the Impaler. So I get a nice friendly reminder to guard the Vestal because 36 and that 22 damage is what you saw if you don't have the trinket on. I need to protect the Vestal, and if you bring along the Vestal you need to protect. As you see there, A, it was my only choice, and B, I was going to do it regardless of what choices I had because I need that Vestal protected. So for this room I'm just going to heal up real quick and then we're going to finish this boss off. But definitely protect your individual who does not have the trinket, because if you don't have a strong healer, along like a Vestal, taking that 22 damage and this 36 damage of stress, it's just going to be too much to repair. I just got out of a fight, so there is one more fight there. As I said, there's a total of 9 fights. There is, I believe, 2 on each way to the bosses. So the next one coming up is the boss room. I'm actually not going to use the full 8 here because I'm really not too worried about only minusing 10 stress, and I want to conserve some of my food for possible health later. So I'm just looking at all my skills, but I definitely recommend weapons practice and tactics. Put those 2 camp skills on, so pause the video and make sure you buy weapons practice and tactics. They're 2 really great abilities the man-at-arms can do for you. It's more damage and more dodge and more crit. So it's amazing. It makes people pump out more damage and dodge, which is everything you need, and you don't have to take a turn to do it. It's amazing. If you bring along a Hellion, I'd recommend doing the Sharpened Spear skill. It's a 10% crit, and it would put her at like probably 35 to 40% depending the trinkets you have on her. So 40% to crit is pretty amazing, and you have Iron Swan on or just her regular attack, she can realistically one-shot enemies all the time. And as you can see me walking back up here, we went to the right twice and then we went down. We're right outside the second mini boss room here, so we got two this time. We got a Warlord and an Impaler. The Impaler is what we fought last time. Warlord's a little different. All I recommend is you pick one to focus. I don't really have a preference on which one I kill. I don't like the Impalers more, and my group can hit front row a little better than back row, so I'm going to decide to hit the Impaler in the front here. And the reason why I'm hitting the front row is because I have the bleed out ability on the Hellion. And the bleed out ability is pretty strong if you get a critical and whatnot. Honestly that wasn't, but we can hope for it. Now once again I'm getting lucky with the revelations because they're not coming on to my Vestal, but this time I remembered correctly and I protected right away. So now any of those coming out won't be an issue. The Warlord hit pretty tough right there, but that's why you bring a Vestal so you can get those AoE heals, because your frontline people are going to take a lot of damage from these mini bosses. They hit hard, they're no jokes. The Hound Master is also an excellent choice for damage now that we're going to talk about him a little bit. The Hound Master does more damage against beasts, and these guys technically count as beasts, so it's like free extra damage while having a good row versatility. And now I'm going to riposte because I'm protecting the Vestal. So Doomsday, I'm going to get a riposte out of this. It's a lot of damage, but once again, can't stress it enough, that's why I bring around the Vestal so we can AoE heal. I don't care about any revelations that are not on my Vestal. I brought along plenty of anti-venoms at this point, and that's another thing to mention. Make sure you bring enough anti-venoms along, because you're going to need them for these Templars. And I'm just going to keep bleeding out for those critical chances, as you see. Now that one's dead. Now I'm going to go focus the less health Warlord in the back there. The Templars are only really tough because they get two abilities. It's the Revelation and the other abilities they have. So really they get to attack twice, and obviously if you don't have that individual protected, you're in some deep stuff. Now a mistake I did there is that protection just ended, so if I don't kill this Warlord pretty much by the next turn, it's going to get a chance to Revelation the Vestal for a lot of stress damage again. I don't think it's a terrible move though, because I do have the firepower to get rid of the Warlord this turn as I do. I really wouldn't call that a mistake, but it is definitely a little more gutsy, because if I don't kill it, then I'm in chance of getting more stress and more damage onto the Vestal for being greedy. For the third fight room, you're going to go up from the original starting point, take the left room, then go up, and then go up one more time, and that'll get you to the third fight. Now we're walking to our final room. I have some holy waters left, so I'll reduce the blight chance. The Flesh Hounds are the first ones I'm going to focus. So I'm going to use a direct attack on them. It's a nice critical. It's going to get them low right away. You just want them dead because they can do a lot of damage, and then they can start trying to move your party, and you don't want your party composition moved. Once again, I'm fortunate that the Revelation comes out before I can protect, and it's not on my Vestal. Any fight where there's adds with the Templar, make sure they die first. I get two nice criticals to remove the Flesh Hounds, and now the Templar Warlord's going to be the last one, and now that he's alone, we can focus fire. Once again, you see me protect because I don't want the Revelation coming out onto my Vestal. Wrapping up the video, once again, very important that you're always protecting the Vestal, and that's why I think a Man-at-Arms is great for it. There's other characters that can protect. However, the campfire abilities, practice weapons, and tactics on the Man-at-Arms are too good to pass up in my honest opinion. Also, the Man-at-Arms gets riposte, which can do a little more damage with some of those AoE attacks. That's why I like them. The Vestal has to be there, I believe, for the AoE heals. There's just too much damage that comes out that is spread. The Hound Master is an excellent choice, as I said before, because the Hound Master gets additional damage against Beast, and all the mini bosses count as Beast. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you the path to get the Ancestral Trinket. There is one in here. If your party's not too hurting like mine, you can go get it and just, if you're already here and you already spent all the money, you might as well get the Ancestral Trinket. Feel free to stop watching the video here. If you're curious in finding out the Ancestral Trinket, keep watching. Once again, just one more point, kill the cultists, then the priests, and then the growths. I think that's the most successful way. If you have luck doing it maybe the opposite way, go ahead. I just think the cultists offer too much utility, protection, and heals to let them alive, and the priests offer the main source of stress damage, which this party composition can't easily heal. If you have a party composition that can easily heal stress, honestly feel free to let the other individuals alive. I just believe the Death Flash and the Finger ability are just too strong to let them have too many turns.
Success so clearly in view.
From the top room here, we're going to head directly to the right. So that fight's over. We're going to just open up the satchel here. Once again, decent amount of loot. I got the Ancestral Coat, which is really good. I like that dodge. Now I'm going to back out. I hope this little guy showed you a composition that can work, how to handle the small fights, and definitely how to handle the big fights. Thanks for watching.